Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. We have made it through round number 5 of the 2026 AFL season. It was a round where the Swans shut out the Suns. Freo ate some very hot pies at Adelaide Oval, with the whole state of South Australia coming alive for its very favourite tradition that's been going for all of 3 years, or 4 years now, Gather Round. I'm Jesse Dudd, joined as always by Liam. Thankfully,
Hello.
We are now out of the gimmick round bonanza. We're into April, so we can have our false dawns all to ourselves without worrying about gimmicks for at least the next 7 or so weeks until we get to the bye rounds, which, can't wait for that. But a good weekend of footy all around, I think it must be said. Some interesting results, and I think we're starting to gradually get an idea about who's who in the zoo when it comes to season 2026. But, I don't think the cages on a few teams are necessarily strong. I think it's quite an open plan. But there's safari zoos in many ways as teams roam around oscillating between good and utterly rubbish.
Well, there's definitely some talking points from this gather round, Jesse, from a lot of the different teams. We're going to go through each of them in a little bit. Jesse's going to give a little bit of a pass mark for the first 5 rounds, as it were, at @CMPerfect_AFL on Instagram, Apple, Amazon, and Spotify for our main podcast, and of course on YouTube, where you might be watching us right now. Hello and welcome. Obviously, get involved in the conversation. We love that. It's been a minute since you guys have abused us. Do you agree with us now, Jesse? We have to get controversial. We have to try and spur some more comments. How can we do that? Why don't you talk about Essendon being bad? Can you do that this week?
Yes, I can. They're still objectively quite terrible.
Understood. But no, it was an interesting round, wet round of footy, Jesse. Very, very wet indeed. But we're not going to talk about that just yet. Let's kick off with a little bit of a, I was going to say a rant. Look, it could be.
Liam, have you told people where to find us, even though they're already watching us yet?
Yeah, I did that. Thanks for listening. All right, let's subscribe. I did. Do you know what that was, Jesse? That was you preparing your notes because you're about to go.
I was so fixated on why I couldn't get AFL.com to populate a result I was specifically trying to get up, but I just kind of shut you out, which, to be fair, I've reliably heard you're just a laugh track on this podcast.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. I just laugh at what things you say, Jesse. I've come this far. We've been doing this for nearly 3 years now. I've come to terms with the fact that I will speak and you will just be there preparing the next thing you're going to say, not listening to what I'm saying.
Is that abuse? You're on report.
What did I say?
Doesn't matter.
What did I say?
Sorry, we have to actually cut that, and we can't have any audio because, we can hear stand yelled 300 times during a game, but when there's a contentious incident involving alleged words from mic'd up umpires, we can't hear that. And we'll get to that later, but for now, you wanted something controversial, Liam? I'll give you one right off the bat. Spare me. Just spare me. What a load of hogwash. Yeah. I mean, seriously. Like, let's come back to planet Earth here for 1 second. How does that work? Butters is meters away. We can hear fans yelling through the umpires' mics at times. We can certainly hear the umpires yelling stand every time. You're trying to tell me that a microphone that works for 3 hours doesn't work for 5 relevant seconds?
Oh, it's evidence, Jesse. It's evidence. Withhold it. You have to withhold it until you've had your hearings and your cases, or it's all a big conspiracy cover-up.
But is what Butters allegedly said even abuse?
Well,
how much are they paying you is objectively funny. It's objectively funny.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Jesse, at the end of the day, all he said was, what was that free for? But, it doesn't matter. It's all very funny. It'll be interesting to see, because obviously Zac Butters has paid the AFL a fair, hefty sum of cash across the years. So maybe they'll be like, do you know what? Bad boy. Extra money from you. Hopefully not weeks, because that'd be bad for fantasy. But we'll see how we go.
I just think this is going to be a real test of the AFL's governance and legal process, because we've obviously got the Lance Collard discussion going on in the background. And look, that's a very different situation given past behaviour.
Sure.
But it's very interesting to me that we've just come off a week of he said, they said, and the AFL has found that on balance, it is likely that Lance Collard did use homophobic language. That is the AFL's finding in that regard. And then we're straight into a he said. So it will be very interesting to see if there is there evidence, because apparently the microphone didn't work, which I find utterly absurd.
It's weird.
Look, either way, we can blast the AFL for having crappy technology. It doesn't matter whether they're lying or not. The technology, if you can't tell me that we can have that microphone working at all times, except for then. It's the same thing when you have issues with the arc or with the goal, what do you call the edge for the goalposts? You can't have it fail and say, "Oh, we're doing great, and we're a professional sports league." Like, no, we're not.
Yeah, it does seem pretty convenient that for that one moment it didn't work. Apparently, Zac tried to have a chat with him after the game as well. And again, this is all from the mouth of Zac Butters.
Well, he did. That is established at this point.
And then Nick Foot was just like, "I don't want to talk to you. Away with you." But I mean, look, hey, it will be interesting to see how it goes in the eyes of the AFL court of law. We'll see how it goes, Jesse. We didn't come here to talk about that, though. I just
find the whole thing very bizarre, and
that's strange.
It's such a needless diatribe and just dribble. Like, it's first of all, I don't really think what Butters has said is particularly wrong. Maybe I'm completely off the ball there. If he has said, "How much are they paying you?" that's not abuse. I'm sorry, that is not abuse. You are not being abused in that context.
Maybe he was just curious.
It's not abusive language.
Maybe he's just curious. How much do you get paid? I might switch over. Might be an umpire next time, in my next life. Maybe that's what he was asking. We don't know.
I mean, how often is that sledge yelled over the fence?
Well, that's different though, Jesse.
Okay, sure. But again, it's not like he's personally attacking him. He's not saying, "How much did the St Kilda Football Club deposit into Nick Foot's Commonwealth Bank account?" That's not the sledge. That's a bad sledge because it's too long.
Too long, yeah.
I don't know. I look at this and I think if this is anything more than like a symbolic $1,000 fine, then this is up there with the Pat Voss taunting fine. We've just completely lost the plot this season. And we don't understand what a penalty is and what an offence is in the AFL, in my personal view.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts, listener? Do you agree with Jesse? I tend to agree with Jesse. I think it's all a bit silly. I think it's as part of the job, because obviously the AFL players are under a lot of scrutiny all the time. That's obviously partly why we do this, because you enjoy it. You enjoy ripping into players, and you enjoy good footy, Jesse. It's a dichotomy. But at the same token, are the umpires not open to this same kind of criticism, albeit live on the field potentially?
I mean, how many times do we literally see players swearing at umpires for a high tackle or holding the ball call they didn't agree with? We see them do it on the camera, and yet we're not taking any of that tribute. There's no allegation of swearing or insulting Nick Foot based on a protected class, race, gender, disability, whatever. None of that's in play here. The offence is apparently, how much are they paying you?
The only contrast I can think of is I saw in rugby once that one of the players went to the umpire, "You just cost us the game," and the umpire said, and this is probably where sin bin kind of
happened in the AFL as well.
Yeah, but in the rugby,
Hawthorn about 15 years ago.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in the rugby, the guy was just like, "Right, off to the sin bin, you go for 10. Don't talk to me like that. Done. That's it. Sorted."
That's what the 50's for.
Well, that's very true, Jesse.
It's just, can we talk about the teams? Because this has annoyed me more than when I came on about this now. Because the more we talk about it, the more I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I'm glad. I'm always up for a little ad hoc, Jesse.
Again, in no way am I saying go out and berate match officials. They have a very difficult job.
Yes.
It's extremely difficult, and obviously, don't abuse people based on who they are. That goes without saying. But this is like the Pat Voss thing. Rubbing someone's bald head because they're bald, or balding in the case of Harrison Petty. We're not worried about that, are we? In the same way, we're not worried about how much are they paying you.
Well, we'll find out, Jesse, the tribunal, how much they care about that. We'll find out. Revenue raising. Here we go.
Remember when Patrick Cripps won a Brownlow, having been originally given 2 weeks for a banking Archie in the head as hard as he could, and then all of a sudden, doesn't matter. I mean, if Butters gets a week for this, I mean...
You reckon there's a chance?
With the AFL, who knows anymore? Seriously, who knows?
Oh. If they can make that decision as soon as possible, we can fix our fantasy teams, Jesse. You have Butters, don't you?
No. I never had him. I had Rosé.
You had Rosé. I had Rosé too. Switch for Butters. Crazy. We can catch more about our fantasy talk though on Tips and Trades. That'll be on YouTube tomorrow at the time you're listening to this. Plug out of the way. That was actually just a long, elongated plug for our Tips and Trades segment. That's it. That's all it was. All right, Jesse, we've just successfully eaten into 10 minutes of your actual deep dive for today, which was talking about
Thursday night footy at the Adelaide. But I'm joking.
Look, the deep dive is it's a quasi deep dive. You just want to kind of go through the teams and give them a little bit of a ranking. I'm not sure how you're doing it, Jesse. You're ranking them. You just chatting about them.
I'm grading them. And we're going to go on ladder. We're going to go on current ladder position. Now, it's worth waiting. I'm doing this in ladder order, but there's two elements to a grade here. There is win-loss record and objective on-field performance. Now, as we get to the halfway point of the season, the ladder ranking obviously would carry more weight. However, for now, I'm also still putting a fair bit of weight on on-field performance, because when you've only played 5 games, there can be a little bit of manipulation, especially if you've had a really easy draw or a really hard draw.
Okay. All right. I like that, Jesse. I like that. So you're starting at the top or you're starting at the bottom? Starting
at the top, because I feel like after screaming hoarsely for 10 minutes, I'd like to be happy momentarily.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're going to start with a team that you had very low hopes for coming into season 2026. And as of last week, you were still not too convinced. The Sydney Swans, Jesse, how are you feeling about them right now?
Definitely better than I was at the start of the season. I'm giving them an A- for the Swans so far. They have had a very friendly draw. I mean, Carlton are terrible. They beat Gold Coast, which is great.
That's good.
It's wonderful. They lost to Hawthorn. There's somewhere in there. I mean, they're 4-1. That's all well and good. But I mean, they've had West Coast and Carlton. They're kind of two freebies. The Gold Coast win, very good. The Hawthorn win though is where the Hawthorn loss is where I honestly see Sydney, and that is if another team can get momentum, they completely fall apart. Now, to their credit, they never gave the Suns the opportunity to do that on the weekend.
It's true.
But in a situation where I look at a game against the Giants this weekend and say, well, Sydney are clearly a better team than the Giants are right now, in my view. But I'm not necessarily confident of Sydney winning this comfortably, because the Giants are a momentum team, and that's the size that Sydney have struggled against under Dean Cox the most.
Okay. So, obviously, scoring like crazy this year, which is one of the things you were worried about coming into the season. They've done it mostly without Charlie Curno's help. Obviously, he scored a few goals across the season, but it seems to be mostly coming across out of their mids and their runs through the mids. But is that where your concern kind of is, Jesse? Like, obviously, A-, great to start the season, but getting into those tougher games, I guess, is where we're going to get the real test. I mean, GWS is going to be a big one. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. That I think will tell us a lot about both sides. And you can do this at any point in the season and say, oh, well, next week we'll learn more. But that's just how you got to draw a line somewhere. I think 5 games in, we've gotten through Gather Round. Let's take stock of where we're at. So A- for the Swans. They'll be very pleased with where they're at. They'll be looking to make the most of this. I still don't see them as a top 4 side. I honestly think 2 through 6 are better teams than them, but we'll see.
We'll see. We'll move on, Jesse, to number 2, which is our boys, the Freo Dockers, 4-1, which is not a bad little start to the season. Definitely where we would like to be, only going down to the Geelong Cats at the start of the season, which was also in itself, on the table for us, that we just kind of threw it away. How are you seeing the boys starting this year, Jesse?
Yeah, I think A- is the grade for the Dockers in my eyes. You'd be very much struggling to give them any lower than that based on what we've seen so far. They would have had an A if the loss to Geelong didn't involve a monumental capitulation and terrible tactics by Justin Lomier once again. It's hard, because you could almost argue, well, the game against Melbourne was blasé. They didn't kill off Richmond probably in the way they should have, but then they've come out and delivered some fantastic close wins against the Crows and the Pies. So I think on balance, A- is where the Dockers sit. They should be making it 5-1 this weekend. Obviously, there's no such thing as an easy derby, but if you take out emotion, and this is what the Dockers, and this is what Justin Lomier needs to be doing this week. It doesn't matter who they are. Internally for West Coast, they can ant themselves up. It's a derby. No such thing as an easy derby. Fremantle needs to just take the emotion straight out of that and avoid falling for the permanent trap that Justin Lomier falls for, of playing down to your opposition, which he has done since 2020, and which I'm not unquestionably sure he will continue to do so long as he is in that chair. A-, some positive signs from young players. Matt Johnson's having a great season. No one's really struggled, like alarmingly struggled. I mean, Darcy's bad, but he does have impact on the games,
Well, until his little concussion last week, he had a couple of pretty decent runs in Adelaide, I must admit. He was pretty good against Adelaide. He was looking okay.
Is 40% time on ground going to cut the mustard, though?
No, but I think that might just be how it is, Jesse. We can do this all with Luke Jackson by himself. He's basically Luke Jackson's water break. And in that time, if he can be effective, then I'm for it. I don't think it's a terrible tactic.
I'd rather invest in a guy that's on a third of the salary and move him on. If we're going to use him as a glorified piss break, I'd rather just have someone else out there.
Without deep diving, Jesse, I think that's we got to play the cards we've currently got. And we're not going to develop Mason Cox. Who else we got?
No, but then why draft 5 small forwards?
Look, that's the question for a different podcast, Jesse. But A- so far for the Dockers, because I know what you're like. I'm going to move you on straight away. Let's move on to the team who is in third currently, the Hawthorn Hawks, who are looking mighty fine at 401 as well. Looking really good at the Hawks the last couple of games, especially the last couple of weeks, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm happy to give them a straight A for the Hawks. They're for me are your premiership favourites at the moment. I respect an argument around Brisbane. I also respect an argument about a team they beat on the weekend in the Bulldogs. But for me, Hawthorn are your premiership favourites. They are in the driver's seat. They're playing some excellent football. They're scoring freely. And they're also able to win games that are on the line. I speak of, obviously, the Geelong game on Easter Monday, which did get very uncomfortable at times. It looked like Geelong were going to stamp them out, but Hawthorn just refused to lie down. This is a very good side, coached by a very smart coach. I think they're probably the best team of 2026 so far.
Yep. I mean, look, obviously early days, but I think from most of the teams we've spoken about so far, we've had some gimmies. Have Hawthorn had any real gimmies this season? I feel like they've been played against pretty tough opposition.
I will jump through their fixtures and results now.
Jump through them, Jesse.
Obviously, lost to the Giants in opening round, which is a blemish, and we've talked about that pretty extensively. Essendon's a bit of a freebie.
That's a freebie.
A bit of a freebie. It's an absolute freebie. Beat Sydney, who you've got to respect that given their record. Then had a bye, then beat the Cats by a point in the game of the season, and then obviously a Gather Round. A pretty handy win against a pretty good Bulldog side, who to that point had not lost.
So basically, just the one gimme. I think it's straight A is a pretty decent or grade there, Jesse. Bulldogs, they're next off the ranks, Jesse. Obviously, that the aforementioned, the blemish coming this past week. Obviously, losing Tim English was pretty bad. Apparently, they need him.
Yeah, crucially need Tim English. They really struggle without him. I bounced around with this. I'm going to stick to A-, so that way all the teams with 4-1 records have at least that grade, because I don't think 3 of them were necessarily pegged to go 4-1 with any level of confidence. I think Hawthorn, I would have justified going in. I don't know about the other 3, so for that reason, I'm going to give the Dogs an A- as well. They're scoring well. The defending actually had improved in the first month of the season. It was poor on Saturday night in Gather Round against the Hawks. In saying that, though, but even without Marby Chol, the Hawthorn do possess a very good forward line. So you have to put a bit of weight on that. But look, overall, I don't know with the Dogs going forward. They're a team I can see dropping off alarmingly in the next month. Equally, if they can just dust themselves off and forget that game happened, they could go. We have seen around this time of year, though, they can fall apart a bit. I remember in 2024, they were actually the team that springboarded Hawthorn, who had been struggling terribly for the first 8 weeks of the season. And then somewhere in early May, they got going, and then off they went.
Well, obviously, Tim English should potentially come back this week. Edridge is not as bad as we thought either, which is good for them, because obviously last year was hamstrung by a lot of injuries, pardon the pun. But so hopefully if they keep themselves, fit and firing, then they can have a really, really impressive rest of the year, Jesse. But anything else to add? Should we move on to the number 5 team? Because we've got to fly through this, Jesse. We've got so many to go through. And just think about this. We're still doing this in like 4 or 5 years' time. Crazy to thought. I think we have to do 20 teams. That's way too many.
40, and there'll be AFL 2.
AFL 2.
And I'll be even more cross.
Suns 3-2 at 5th spot, Jesse. A couple of blemishes in the last couple of weeks. Again, it seems to be a bit of a tale of the tape this season with some of these teams where they lose some big players and their structure seems to go out the window. Obviously, Petrarca, a big piece of the Suns' recruitment over the off season, out with a hamstring, and they've kind of lost a bit of their way. But how do you see it?
I'm going to give them a B.
Okay.
They're a hard one for me, the Suns, because I could be really harsh and go B minus C plus because I mean I'll do what we did for the Hawks and kind of go through their fish as well. Smash the Cats in open round. That's a great start to your season. You're very happy with that.
Yep.
Smash the Eagles. That's probably a game they should be winning. Smash the Tigers. That's again they really should be winning. Then had a bye. Then a loss to Melbourne, which is bad.
Yep.
And then a loss to Sydney, which, given I don't rate Sydney against good sides, I am worried about that. And that's the type of thing I look at and say, where exactly are they? And it's their top guys that are struggling. Like Anderson has been terrible since Petrarca went out of the team. Rail's been okay, but they just they don't look like the team they were before their bye. It's like an entirely different team's come out.
Well, I mean, also, granted who they played before the bye, you would expect them to easily win all those 3 matches, which they obviously did.
I don't think Geelong was an easy win, but the other 2, yes.
Oh, Geelong, sorry, Geelong was in there as well. Yeah, easy beats Geelong, yeah, always famously. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go because obviously we both had the Suns doing very well this year on the back of last year where they had showed massive improvement. So, I mean, fingers crossed they kind of turn this around because I don't really want to see them languish again. They kind of need to take their next step, and this is the year for it. So we'll see what happens. The crosstown rivals, though, Jesse, the Brisbane, well, not crosstown, completely different town, but the Brisbane Lions currently behind them as well on 3 and 2 as well. I believe you called this at the start of the season, Jesse. I think in the little ditty that we gave for each team, you basically said that the Lions would start slow and then start picking up. Has it happened a bit earlier than you would have thought?
Yes and no. I'm going to go B plus for the Lions, and a bit of that is where I'm cashing in my performance clause here because obviously they're very close loss to the Dogs.
Yep.
It was a goal in it, wasn't it? So you swing that, it's 4-1. Dogs are 3 and 2. They're getting a grade of B. Lions probably getting an A. That's just how this swings and roundabouts of AFL, right? So look, I think you look at the way the Lions have played. They've not really smashed anyone. Their performances are just very consistent, and that's what you get from March to August with the Brisbane Football Club. They'll get their 17 wins or thereabouts, maybe plus minus 2, depending on the season. They'll likely get a double chance. If they don't, I don't think they really care. They're very good in finals regardless. Realistically, as long as they're finishing in the top 6, I don't think Brisbane are really going to care. And lo and behold, look where they currently are.
Yeah, 6, Jesse. That's crazy. No, I think they'll be fine. The old Lions, they're still missing a few players as well. I think they're going to be up at the pointy end come September, regardless. No worries at all. Guess where we're moving now, Jesse? We're moving into the wild card zone. Yes. 7 through 10. Everyone's so excited about the wild card. 7th, the North Melbourne Kangaroos at 3 and 2 as well, Jesse. Probably a bit of a surprise early on this season, but I think they're this last week they got a bit of a check.
I'm going to grade North very harshly, and I'm going to explain why.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
C plus, so a passing grade, but I think people would have said potentially why aren't they getting a B or higher?
Yes.
Their draw has been absolute custard. And I think when we're talking about a side that's had as long as they have had to rebuild, reorganise, sort themselves out, we want to be demanding things out of this North Melbourne side. And so, 3 and 2, that's great. That is a clear step forward from last season. You've had it fairly easy. You've objectively probably got it fairly easy this week coming as well. Cash in. The loss against West Coast, very disappointing. They'll be very disappointed with that loss. Outside of that, they've been very good. Their win against Carlton was superb. They showed real courage to do that. But, I mean, you look at the fact they're playing against sides like Essendon. They played, Essendon, Carlton, West Coast so far this season. They're not good teams.
Jesse.
Yes.
I'm going to call you out on this one. So you've got a team who is objectively, I understand what you're saying in relation to the how long they've had and all that kind of stuff. Some of the teams up at the top that you've given quite high marks to have also had pretty custard starts to the season and have played teams that are considerably worse. North Melbourne is still developing and they've still beaten these teams. Is there such a thing as custard for North Melbourne is what I'm saying?
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
And I get what you're saying as well. But you look at this for North. And you should celebrate what they're doing.
Sure.
But their performances haven't been superb either. I mean, they were okay against Essendon. They were good for a quarter and a half against Carlton. They lost to West Coast. They were good for a half against Brisbane, maybe 2.5 quarters against Brisbane. Compare that to, we'll go with Hawthorn. Sorry, actually, no, Gold Coast had 2 walkovers, didn't they? Beat West Coast by 10 goals, beat Essendon by 10 goals.
Mm.
Sorry, beat, the Suns beat by 10 goals. Essendon as well, wasn't it? They beat Essendon. Did I do Essendon for them?
Didn't they smash Geelong? Wasn't that them?
They did smash Geelong, but they also had Richmond. Sorry, it was Richmond, not Essendon. My apologies. But so smash Richmond by 10 goals, smash West Coast by 10 goals. That's fine. Look at Fremantle, beat Melbourne by 40-odd points, beat Richmond by 10 goals. About right. North Melbourne limped over the line against both the sides. And look, they showed courage in those wins, and those wins are great, but they're not out of that group yet. And so I think you have to remember that this is very much a performance weighting rather than a win-loss rating.
Gotcha.
You know, if they turned out these performances against, let's just randomly assign Melbourne, Adelaide, Giants, Brisbane, we'll throw in Carlton, they're probably 1 and 4.
Can I tease you up? Can I encourage you up to a B-, Jesse, for the Kangas?
No, C+.
Okay, let's move on to the team in 8th position. I can't wait for this. 3 and 2 to the Geelong Cats, Jesse. Where we putting the Geelong Cats? A.
F. No, they are getting a C.
Okay.
They're getting a C flat because I did say their draw was going to be actually no, I'm going to up that to C plus. I did caveat their draw was very difficult at the start of the season, and it has been. They're doing what they need to do, Geelong, without being flattering. Hence why that kind of C plus range is about right for them. They did the job very professionally against West Coast. They were smashed by the Suns. That's quite disappointing for them. They were great against Fremantle. They probably shouldn't have lost to Hawthorn with where they had them in that game, in my view. And look, I get you can have the argument either way, but I do think they probably should have maybe ground that out a bit better than they did. And then they had a very good win against the Crows at GMHBA. So I think a C plus is about fair, only because this is very Geelong. And
well, technically, Jesse, we're currently in a Geelong rebuilding phase, which is the scary part.
Are we?
Yeah, because they're just always just rotating people through, consistently.
They're permanently rebuilding, though.
They're permanently rebuilding, yeah. So
I think a C plus for Geelong. Look, this is one where I could probably be argued into a B range, just given that they have had a brutal draw and it doesn't get much better for them the next couple of weeks either. They're a team that you'll probably see with something like an A- at the end of the season because they scream home. And they're probably premiership favourites going into the finals because they're going to scream home with the ease of their draw in the back half of the season. But you can only judge what you've seen in front of you. They've been disappointing. They were disappointing once. And I think the other game they lost, they probably should have won. Hence why their rating is probably a bit lower. Just given the fact that, I think really they probably should be saying 4-1. Again, they beat Hawthorn on Easter Monday. We're getting an A-, and instead we're talking C+.
Yeah. Look, just to be a contrarian, I would probably say those last two definitely in the B ranges for me. If you're listening at home, so if you've got any hate mail, send it, Jesse. I'm intrigued by these next two.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by these next two. 9th place, we've currently got the Melbourne Demons, who are currently 3 and 2 as well. Obviously, some very impressive wins in there, but some really shocking losses as well. It's kind of the tale of Melbourne. It's like, which end are you going to get? It's like how it felt being like a Fremantle supporter. Still kind of now, but not so much now. But a few years ago, where you were like, "Who's rocking up today? Who's rocking up?" That seems like where Melbourne's at the moment. Jesse, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the only side in the top 14 to have conceded over 500 points. So that probably tells you what you need to know about their defensive abilities at the moment. As much as Stephen May probably isn't the best locker room presence, you can see they're missing him out on the field at the very least in terms of their organisation. My grade for Melbourne is, and this is getting quite boring now, a C+, because I don't think their performances have been particularly great across the board. I mean, they were great against the Suns. That was brilliant. It was very good the way they overpowered Carlton. that were pretty bad on the weekend. And when I say pretty bad, I mean like terrible, really like bin fire terrible against really Essendon. And those are the type of losses. And look, progress isn't linear. And I'm going to say this a fair bit in this. And you can also, the same can be said for North as well. Progress isn't linear when you're rebuilding. Melbourne are doing that. I think, given they've got 3 wins, I have to give that a bit of weighting at this point in the season and go that positive grade. But yeah, I'm still concerned some of the performances have left a lot to be desired, primarily on the weekend.
10th place, Jesse, is the Port Adelaide Power at 2 and 3. So it's our first 2 and 3 team. We've moved out of the 3s and 2s. We're into the 2s and 3s. Yeah, I'm just going to let you take this one because I reckon this could be very interesting.
This is a D.
Yeah.
What a waste. I mean, Port were unlikely to have any impact on the wildcard anyway this season, in my opinion. But they've absolutely bottled what really should have been a 4-0 start, potentially a 5-0 start, into a 2 and 3. And realistically, there's no coming back from this season. Their performances have been glib. They were never in it against St Kilda last night. I know the game was relatively close. Bar 5 minutes of the third quarter, they never look like overpowering the Saints, which, given where they're at, concern. Mm-hmm. Look at some of the other performances. They were solid enough. They shut out Richmond, which I don't think is hard. They lost to West Coast at Adelaide Oval, which I think that's more the disappointing part, is that West Coast have been abominable at the Adelaide Oval in recent seasons, and to give that up in the way they did, especially having started the game so positively, I think they'll be really disappointed with that. And then they beat up on a horrible Essendon side. So, look, 2 and 3. I mean, they've won 2 games. Yay. They really should have won 4. You can't get this close to a passing grade. I'm immediately concerned for where this list goes in the next 3 years. I think Josh Carr might have the worst job in football at the moment.
Yeah, poor fella. We'll see what they can do. But yeah, I tend to agree, Jesse. They haven't really looked all that solid this year, which kind of just goes to show that our preseason kind of worries may be coming to fruition, unfortunately, for the Port Adelaide Power. Across town again, Jesse, this time, actually. The Adelaide Crows are currently in 11th position, 2 and 3 as well. Obviously, high hopes for the Crows for the rest of the season, but how have you seen it so far?
You're not going to like this. I'm giving them a C+. And this is where I'm prepared to just about entirely override the win-loss column and go entirely on performance here.
Okay.
Their 3 losses, lost by a goal to the Dogs, a 4-1 team. 8 points to Geelong, a 3-2 team in Geelong. Lost by 2 points to Fremantle, a 4-1 team. Now, on one hand, their inability to win close games is a concern and could hold them back in a finals environment. On the other hand, if we're saying Adelaide is a top 6 side, these results are about on par because their net losing margin in 3 games of football against sides also likely to be in and around that top 6 bracket. We're talking, we're talking about 14 points across 3 games, 2, 6, and 8. 16. We're talking 16 points across 3 games. I'm not worried about that. That's fine. In terms of their on-field performances, that's okay. Obviously, they've lost more games than they've won. You do have to factor that in to some level. However, like I said, I'm really happy to just about override the win-loss column in terms of giving them a passing grade, but they're not going to get much more than a C+ with a 2 and 3 record. And
again, Jesse, this is round 5. It's just an early season. Relax, everybody. Comment below. 12th, the Giants. 2 and 3 as well. I'm going to stop saying that because the next 6 teams are 2 and 3. So the Giants are currently in 12th. Kind of unconvincing this year, the Giants so far. Jesse, how have you seen it?
I'm giving them a D because I'm really uninspired by this GWS side. I don't think this team hurts you. And I think, was it last year or 2024? I kept going on about this with the Giants. They don't hurt you.
Which is strange because they got some talent in that team.
They do.
They got some absolute talent. But yeah, something just doesn't seem to be clicking. I mean, they're missing a lot of talent as well, let's be real. But for what they still have in that field, a D is not that great, Jesse, to start the season.
No, it's a real worry. And I want to talk about scoring with the Giants because that for me is a clear benchmark for them, a barometer, if you will, given where they played on the weekend. So 131 beat up on Richmond, that's great. cake and coffee for everyone. You can all have a pat on the back for that. 54 against Collingwood, that's quite dreadful. 74 against St Kilda, it's passable, but it's not amazing. 53 against the Dogs, that's garbage. And then opening round 122 against the Hawks in a game where literally everything seemed to go perfectly. And on one hand, that's a great execution.
Sure.
But on the other hand, kissed on the bottom by a leprechaun, things are going your way. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm uninterested in this Giants team as a premiership contender. I'm almost uninterested in them as anything beyond. Actually, no, I'm uninterested in them as a top 6 team. They get flogged by Sydney in the Battle of the Bridge. They're 2-4. I'm potentially starting to get uninterested in them as a wildcard contender, because if a team like Melbourne can just do this weird thing where they just keep winning games, they get to like a 10-10 record, and they're ahead of GWS, well, then the onus is on the Giants to go past them.
Mm-hmm.
So if a team like Melbourne, Port will definitely drop. They're rubbish. North will likely go to 4-2 this weekend. Giants go into a 4. I'm not saying that North will finish above the Giants, but the onus is on you as the chasing team. And this was the Dogs last season. The onus is on you as the chasing team to win these games. Now, It's great if you keep winning your games. If the team above you doesn't drop any games, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Yeah. It's not a conversation. So I'm starting to get to the point with the Giants where they feel very found out.
Yeah.
And that to me either leads to complete revamp or coaching change. And I don't know what that means for Adam Kingsley. And I know we're saying he's coming off a 10-goal win. But I'm not enamored by this Giants side, and I feel like we're starting to tip to a point now where this list is a wild card at the very least list, if not higher. No, I think it is. I think it's probably a 7 to 10 list. I think let's keep it there. But I think if it's just like they were in the finals last year, they were probably the only team I was saying couldn't win the premiership last year in that final 8, and they bombed out in the elimination final. They were the 5th place side, weren't they? Because Hawthorn had to go there.
Yep.
And they're 5th. Their team was saying they can't win it. And they bomb out in an elimination final against 8th, which objectively is bad.
Well, it was Hawthorn, Jesse. We should move on, though, because we've still got like 6 teams to go, and we're already 40 minutes in. We are going to have no time for our game recap at all. We have to race through it. But let's go. Let's put you on the timer for these last ones, Jesse, because it's the bottom of the table. It doesn't matter. Not like the biggest team of the competition's down there. Collingwood in 13th, Jesse.
C-. They'll be disappointed at the Pies, but there's enough positives to keep them in the wildcard sniff. They've had a couple of losses that they would really love to have back. I think looking at these games, obviously Fremantle stands out, but I think the way that the Brisbane got a hold of them will really disappoint them too. I think they're fine in terms of a wildcard place, but they've not set the world on fire, and they do seem beatable. So a C- is probably fair.
Your favourite team of the competition, St Kilda Saints, coming up next in 14th spot, Jesse.
I'm going to go C- as well. They've really not been that interesting. They've beaten the Giants, yay, and they've beaten Port. Any game where we're saying, okay, this is a real chance to put your big boy pants on and show you're up to it. They lost to Melbourne at the end of the day. I'm not seeing it yet for the Saints. They get until the bye. I say that every week. But based on right now grading, C-. Had they lost to Port, it probably generally would have been an F.
Oh, wow. Okay, fair enough. Let's go to the Eagles in 15th place currently, but unfortunately sliding quite quickly. Boy, have you seen it so far, Jesse? Have you seen the start of the year for the West Coast boys?
I think a C is genuinely right for West Coast. The 2 wins were awesome. They took advantage of their opportunities there. They're the only team to concede over 528 points. That's a very niche number. But they're conceding. They've conceded 600 points in 5 games. That's dreadful. They were humiliated by Sydney. They were belted by the Swans. They were belted by the Suns. Belted by the Cats as well. Should have mentioned them. Don't know why I said Sydney twice. Maybe they got beaten so bad that they got to be mentioned twice.
Well, that's the tale of the tape with Sydney and West Coast the last few years, Jesse. That's how it goes.
uncompetitive performances, they do hold you back. But hey, the 2 wins are generally something to build with, and I think they get a real opportunity in this Western Derby to square the ledger.
We go to Carlton next.
F.
Essendon.
They can have an E because they won. Really, the on-field performances warrant an F.
Is there anything else to say about Carlton?
No, they're rubbish. Essendon, they get an E. I mean, what do you want me to say about either of these teams that hasn't already been said in the media? They're genuinely horrendous footballing sides.
Yeah.
Horrible footballing sides.
Yeah,
they've won 2 games between them and 10 opportunities.
Yes.
When they play each other, it actually might break KO. Because it would just simply... Like, I hope AI is not sufficient enough to, become self-aware. Okay. Because it actually might shut off the stream.
Look, again, probably big game of the round, Jesse, you watch. And let's finish it off, Jesse. The poor lowly Tigers down there with no wins so far.
I've got to give them an F. I'd love to be able to give them any higher than that, but the apart from the Carlton game, which, by the way, is Carlton's only win, and really Richmond should have won that, the Tigers have been dreadful. And, young side, we're not having a go at them, but they've scored 297 points in 5 games. They're not competitive, and they're really starting to struggle.
Well, Jesse, that was an ad hoc deep dive that went nearly the entire length of the podcast. But that was good. I like that. That was interesting.
Blame Zac Butters. Actually, no, don't blame Zac Butters. Blame the AFL. It's his fault. Their fault.
It's their fault. It's their fault.
It's Mr. AFL's fault.
But all that just means, Jesse, is these games from the Gather Round that has just happened we have to run through, which actually I don't think it's too bad of a thing that we only have, let's say, 20 minutes to go through all 9 games, because the round itself was quite interesting. It wasn't overly exciting. nothing really much. Though I'm not so sure if it was the wet weather.
Do you know why? It's because it's played in the twilight zone.
Well,
it's played in this weird environment where we're playing on rectangles. Mm-hmm. We're playing in a paddock. Mm-hmm. We have awful games of football at the Adelaide Oval instead of in paddocks or on rectangles.
But then I don't
like it.
I know you don't like it. But it's also the thing, when you have a storm cell moving through the entire state at the same time, and all the games in the same spot, guess what? You're getting wet with a footy all weekend. It's all yours, all you love. So we'll start here, Jesse. We'll start with Adelaide Oval on Thursday night. The Adelaide Crows 17-12, 114, getting over the Blues 12-14, 86 in what was a fairly, if it wasn't for the rain, could have been much worse for the Blues. But I think that the rain that came through in the second half probably put the brakes on the Crows just a little bit there and let the Blues come back in through. Your thoughts on this one, Jesse?
Better fight from Carlton. Their best performance of the year.
Yeah.
Even with a 30-odd point loss and having won a game. This is their best on-field performance of the year, in my view. Leaders stood up more than they had at all during the season,
100%.
which is a tick and a step in the right direction and probably helps Michael Voss significantly. Adelaide did what they needed to do. I got the sense they were really worried about this becoming a close game, given what's happened in the previous few weeks for them, and they were really trying to avoid that late on and just trying to batten down the hatches and not take any unnecessary risks to allow Carlton to get any momentum, which is why it kind of ended up being a bit of a flat finish to the game, I felt. But look, the Crows will be happy with it. They get 4 points. Carlton can take positives back home to take on the Pies with. They desperately needed some of that. And I think they'll be looking at this and saying, well, we have something here to take into what could be a really hostile environment if they don't play well against Collingwood. If they get smashed, it's going to be bedlam in the street, in Lygon Street. So they're going to need to improve off this again, Carl, but this is a step in the right direction. The Crows banked the 4 points. I don't think they needed to do anything more than that. They can be happy. Yeah,
100%, Jesse. Look, I'll jump in when I can, but because we have to run through them, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut until this game comes up. The Collingwood Magpies 5-9-39, going down to the Dockers 7-3-45. The Dockers' lowest winning score ever, Jesse. How exciting is that?
I'm stunned that that's no longer a Ross record, because that has Ross record written all over it, it upsets me that Timu Ross has that record now.
If you love stoppages, if you love defending, this was the game for you, because that's basically what it was. Just back and forth in the slippery conditions, just the defenders going, please help me. But look, one of the best games from Luke Ryan that we've probably seen for a while since he's come back. I think he actually held down the back line like he used to do, the old general. Same with Pearce. But your two superstars, Dacos and Jackson, kind of held down the fort for the two teams, Jesse. What do you reckon?
Great win for Fremantle. Courageous win for Fremantle when things weren't going their way. I love the fact that a lot of it came from either lesser lights or your defenders. So Matt Johnson, he's been very stiff to miss out on your best. Johnson was phenomenal. Jai Amos, there were absolute peanuts going on about how Jai Amos should not be in this team. And no matter how many times I explain to people that you play Pat Voss as a second tall, he's going to suck and we're going to suck. No, I think it's pretty clear now that Jai Amos is a vital part of this team. And it is staggering what happens when he is hit lace out, running at the ball carrier, which is what he does every week, and the ball either sails 20 metres over his head, or someone like Shea, and I love him, but he tries to do too much and gets caught holding the ball.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Took the words out of my mouth. Murphy Reid, breaking away from a pack, boom, straight into his hands. Thank you very much. Chances missed by the Pies, though.
They'll be filthy about this, Collingwood. They'll really look at this as a missed opportunity. And I did really respect McRae's graciousness in defeat as well in the press conference. It's very easy to get stroppy with those type of things and carry on. But he was very, very keen to be respectful to Fremantle while also acknowledging, that they did let the game slip through their fingers as well. So I think that's also worth praising on that end. But look, Collingwood, like I said before when we did the grading, they'll be disappointed with this. This was a disappointing loss for them, given they probably should have won it. I don't think, though, if this is a finals matchup, I don't necessarily think it would play out the same way. And I think we saw that in 2022 when these sides met in the final. I get the sense Collingwood, and really they did it to Adelaide as well last season, that they're really good in these type of games under finals pressure against younger sides. I don't know if this is necessarily a reflection of Fremantle, a much better side than Collingwood. I think the Brace just went their way on Friday night.
You take those wins, Jesse. Let's move on to the next game at the Barossa. 9-12-66 to the Kangaroos, going down to the Lions 13-14-92 as expected. A little bit of fight from the Kangas, but the class of the Lions was just a bit too much, Jesse. A bit too much for the young Kangas.
Yeah, brave from the Lions. Brave from the Roos. Lions did what they needed to do to get the job done. Really, this is copy-paste from...
But that's the thing. That's the thing about this round. Outside of probably the next game we're going to speak about, that's kind of what it was. A lot of this round was either games like Freo versus Collingwood, which have a little bit of talking points, or just the games went the way they were supposed to go. And is there much more to add?
Trent Buff looks a player.
I like him. I thought it was actually Paul Curtis, just a bigger version of him for a while, but then it was
PC2.
PC2, killer grab in the goal square from Cooper. It was fantastic. But no, he's looking good. Davis Uniacke is looking good. She's looking good as well. Like, they've got some good pieces there, the Kangas. It's got to click, and they've shown signs of it this season. They definitely have. But when you're coming up against the Lions, then couldn't quite get the draw in this one, Jesse. Lions, what's to say about them, Jesse?
Good sides win games.
Correct. Let's move on to the next one. We've got this one. Okay, we can talk this one about just for a little bit longer. At Adelaide Oval, 17-11-113, the Bombers defeating the Melbourne Demons 10-8-68, not taking the record of the longest losing streak in Bombers history. They've tied it at 17. Good job, lads. I was quite stunned by this one. I thought for all money that the Demons would be like, okay, that's right, we're playing Essendon, and would come back, but they were just tepid. They were horrible.
They were phenomenally disappointing, Melbourne, and this is very embarrassing for them. To make this Essendon side look so strong going forward, is humiliating. There's really no way around it.
I mean, look, but again, some of those players that we've been speaking ill of this season, I say you, Merritt, Parrish, like you've been like, where are these guys? Where are they? They stood up as well, kind of like Carlton. Some of their older guard stood up. They definitely did in this one as well.
Absolutely.
But Archie Roberts, huge game from the young fella.
Huge game. I want to talk about some of the Melbourne players, though, because, Jed, there's a few to call out here. Folstra must have had the most useless 22 possessions I think I've ever seen. I reckon every single one. I'm going to go look at his disposal efficiency in this game, because I'm actually interested to see what it is.
Okay.
But I honestly reckon it was about 10%. There were some of the most useless disposals I reckon I've seen. They were utter horse manure across the board. It was genuinely abominably bad. I mean, basically, I need advanced stats. Show me my advanced stats. I'm
going to wait in case it's like 70%. It's really confusing to you, because that would be very funny.
He's got 77, which sounds amazing, but I can assure you, having sat there with my eyeballs and watched this game, that was some of the most useless disposals I think I've ever seen. They were utterly horrific. Cozzy Pickett's disposal efficiency of 46%, also not great.
No. But is it a case, Jesse, that the disposal that Cozzy gives actually do something? Sure, it's 46%, but he's trying.
He is trying.
Where it's 77% of just little chip kicks that should hit the target if you're a professional football player.
But it was also just generally bad to see. Like, it would handball to someone who was already being tackled. Gotcha. Things. It's like, what are you doing?
Does that count for efficiency?
Yes, it does. It's an effective disposal.
Because it hit the target?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's so funny. It's why when you get some of those numbers, they got 99%. It's like, okay, well, actually have a look at the disposal. I can tell you, having watched the game with my eyes, he was terrible.
Okay.
Look, Kako was great for Essendon. He looks like a real player there. Of the young guys, Farah is clearly the obvious one for me in terms of looks a player. Roby didn't do much.
He played, did he?
He did.
Mm.
I'm told by the stats that say he got 9 disposals. Didn't really impact the game. But that's okay. He's got plenty of time to figure that out. Gresham had a good game as well. McGrath doesn't really do anything. He's the one leader that still isn't standing up for them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably your question mark for them. But look, Essendon, they desperately needed to win somewhere. This was achievable but unexpected, I think, and they got the job done, so credit to them. They'll need to back it up, though, in the coming weeks.
All right, let's move on to the next one, Jesse. The Sydney Swans 14-16-100, defeating the Gold Coast Suns 9-14-68. This was like a game where, Paps was up and about from the get-go, and I think once Paps is up and about from the get-go, you're in trouble. Kind of just took the team along with them. But they're playing with a lot of confidence at the moment, the Swans.
They are. They're also playing on a rectangle, which is nice for them and for everyone.
Just imagine everyone. We'd actually have to hear about this rectangle for another year at least. How fun. Yeah. Unless you decide to randomly bring it up, Jesse, for no reason.
You can't tell me in a state as big as South Australia, the best 2 non-Adelaide Oval grounds they have are a paddock and a rectangle. Like, you can't tell me that.
The Barossa I get, because the Barossa you've got.
But you can't tell me the rectangle is the second best metro ground they've got.
No, I wouldn't have.
Honestly, rather than play in Port Augusta.
Yeah. It's a horrible field. It's terrible. The game, Jesse. The game.
Well, once again, Sydney's midfield standing up to be counted. Look at this. Pat was a hybrid, but we'll call him a connecting rod player. So 3 goals from Papley, 2 from Warner, 2 from Heaney. That they're great numbers. They really do help you. Lots of individual goal kickers as well for the Swans. We do need to talk about Charlie Curnow.
Okay.
And how bad he is in front of goal at the moment. Because he is.
Okay.
What
do you do?
We kicked 4 behinds and 0 goals.
That's good.
No.
Contributing to the score.
Well, that is true. I suppose.
Playing his role.
No. Gold Coast will be really disappointed with this. They were completely outplayed early on and just never got themselves back into the game with any real emphasis. I don't think they were good in the third term. That was nice for them. They made it an achievable 17 points at 3/4 time. But then as soon as that fourth quarter started, Cunningham got an early goal. It was pretty much over from that point in time. Disappointing for the Gold Coast Suns. A big win for the Swans in that regard. We'll see with both these teams. I don't know if this result is necessarily replicated in 20 weeks' time. But a big win for the Swans, much needed. They can take a lot of positives out of it. The Suns will need to think about where they're at because that's 2 losses in a row where they've struggled to really impact when challenged.
Mm. And who needs Tim English in your fantasy team when you can have Brodie Grundy? Very good pick up there for myself. All right, let's move on, Jesse. We've got 4 more games to go. Crikey, 4 more games. Let's rock and roll. Saturday night, Adelaide Oval, 15-14-104 to the Hawks. Soundly beating the Western Bulldogs 8-16-64. Look, your main offenders are all there, aren't they, Jesse?
They are. Disappointing for the Dogs. First time they've really been outplayed. First time they have been outplayed all season, owing to the whole win-loss record thing.
Sure.
But look, they were really disappointing here. They struggled to impact. Having been as good as they had against sides in a similar bracket, I think they'll be really disappointed with this. They got the win over Adelaide. They got the win over Brisbane. to have been this poor against Hawthorn, I think they'll be disappointed with. But the Hawks were excellent. You can't take anything away from them in that regard. They are the lamplighters in terms of premiership contention at the moment in my eyes. And I'm seeing nothing to say that, maybe a midfielder's not as great on paper, still can't get the job done. Because that was the concern here. Would the Dogs just overpower them at clearance and at ground level and just give the Hawks forwards nothing? Well, actually, the opposite happened.
Yeah.
Really. And Hawthorn looked absolutely brilliant throughout. They'll be very pleased with this. The Dogs have some thinking to do. I don't necessarily think the Dogs were horrible, but it's kind of like Gold Coast where they were just never in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Some teams didn't bring their best to Adelaide for Gather Round, Jesse. They think it's a stupid idea like you. So we're not doing it. We're not playing.
One of us.
All right. We'll push on. The Geelong Cats 17-20, 122, defeating the Eagles 11-10, 76. A little bit of fight from the Eagles here, Jesse, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're just playing class, aren't you?
Yeah, we can keep this one fairly concise. Developing side does okay, but is soundly beaten by a side that is just ahead of them in terms of ladder position and quality. Some senior Eagles disappointing. Duggan and Kelly had very poor days, but the young kids stood up. Shanahan, Dersma, Williams, Harley Reid's just, I don't think he's all there at the moment in terms of on-field commitment. He's just making poor decision after poor decision. It feels
he got
like...
a taste, Jesse. He got a taste of the wins.
Yeah.
Now he can't have them anymore.
It feels like a different Harley Reid from the first 3 weeks of the season. It feels like we've completely gone back to the start of last year.
Yeah.
Which was the worst version of Harley Reid.
100%.
And it feels like we're back there again.
Yeah, it kind of does. I do feel like it comes in ebbs and flows with how the team is doing, unfortunately. But, we'll see how he goes for the rest. Unfortunate ACL for David Robinson as well, which is going to be a bit of a shame because he was looking like a good young player. But obviously you have to wait till next year to get him back. Should we kick on, Jesse? We know what that game's all about. Let's do it. Oh, dear. The Giants, 20-11-131, defeating the Richmond Tigers 11-9-75. No thanks to Jonty Fall, who got 2 disposals. Well done, Jonty. I mean, another game, Jesse, where...
I apologise to Jervis and Richmond fans, but like really, I don't think there's a lot of deep analysis we can do here that will get a point across other than the Giants beat a side that they should be beating and did it fairly comfortably. Richmond's scoring problems are problematic to the point where, you're worried about what they're actually going to be able to do this season in terms of win-loss record. Like, are they going to be able to get more than 2 or 3 wins? I mean,
Lafau is your top goal kicker by some way. I mean, he's not a bad player, but like...
No, he's a battler. Like, let's be honest. Like, he's a battler.
Yeah. Nice goals, though. There's actually quite a lot of nice goals this weekend, actually, coming to think about it. Some very nice goal of the year contenders. It's going to be a tough little competition. Probably Zach Merritt, though. All right, move over, Jesse. Last game. Last game. This has been the most... It's fine. Everyone watched Gather Round. You all saw the games. Did you come here for deep analysis to every single game? Apologies if you did. Port Adelaide, 9-13.
It's going to be really confusing if I make you cut the Butters rant at the start and there's just only a 50-minute episode this week. Like, why did they rush this so much?
No, I'm not cutting that. That was gold. 9-13-67 to the Port Adelaide Power, going down to the Saints, 12-9-81. Like we were saying, Jesse, a game that they just needed to win, the Saints, to prove their bona fides, or at least pretend like they have bona fides.
Did they prove their bona fides?
I said that, Jesse, but as I said it, I was like, what did they actually prove? What did they prove?
They proved they could beat a bottom 4-2-6 side
by
2 goals.
There we go.
With some very questionable umpiring, if I'm allowed to say that. And not get reported? Okay,
no,
sorry.
Reported. Look, to be honest with you, I'm not one to go kind of bag on the umpires. This was pretty bad.
This was really quite bad.
It was pretty bad.
This was really quite terrible.
Like, you could actually see, I actually saw at one stage in that last quarter, I think it was Horn Francis. I think he just gave up. He was like, what's the point? It's just like, he just looked despondent. Like, he got a call against him. He was just like, what do we do? What do we do here?
Can't do much about that.
No, you can't. But I'm not too entirely sure. I mean, it's always nice if you're a Port fan or any team's fan, if the umpires have been particularly bad, to blame it on them. But I don't think that was the reason why the Saints got up here.
No, neither do I. I think it's just more to do with the fact that Port are not a very good football side. Yeah. They were smashed in... I mean, Port dominated in terms of inside 50s, had plus 21 inside 50s, and just didn't do anything with it. I mean, they're so easy to figure out. You send 3 guys to Georgiades, game over.
Yeah, pretty much.
What Todd Marshall's going to score 4.
Yeah.
Like, that's ultimately just what it is. They led from from go to woe. More tackles, more disposals, I think I saw before. No, sorry, less disposals, but more tackles. Disappointing for Port because they'll feel they should have won this game in terms of where they had it. St Kilda, I mean, they needed the win. Gee, they really did need the win. Have we learnt anything, though, for them? I don't think we have.
I don't think so either, Jesse, but we might find out some more in tips and trades coming up tomorrow after you're watching this on YouTube, where we will talk about next week's games to see if there's anything to learn from this upcoming round, where we have lots of little cheeky rivalries about to go down. It's all very exciting. But for this very different episode of the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast, that will do us, Jesse. Send the lovely people home.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast. Let us know your thoughts on the round that was in the comments. Make sure to leave a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on one of our preferred podcasting platforms, a review goes a long way. But the best review you can give us is word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbours. Actually, don't tell them. Ask them, how much are you paying to watch the Centimetre Perfect AFL podcast? Until next time, enjoy, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.